I mean, we have a bulletin board of just people writing us letters from all over, thanking us or telling us about their journey. It really is fulfilling, and it fills you up with so much joy and love.
Welcome to The Voice of Costume, where we discuss the creative process and behind-the-scenes stories of creating character through costume design. And now, here's your host, Catherine Baumgartner.
Today's guest is Leila Heise, and she is the costume designer for the incredible epic series, The Chosen, which I cannot wait to dive into, not only all things costume design, but also the incredible feat that is The Chosen. So we are going to welcome to the show today, Leila Heise. Hi!
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here. Okay, Leila, I really like going back first to kind of hear a little bit about, like, what did your parents do for a living and what were you like as a kid?
Well, I was an actor.
Nice.
My father was, when he was in grad school, he had two kids under the age of 5. And so he did summer stock and stuff like that. So if ever they needed a kid, he just pushed me out there. So I grew up doing that, and that's what I really wanted to do. He was in theater all his life, and my mom was a housekeeper, and then she was a receptionist for a chiropractor. And we traveled around a lot. I traveled around a lot doing all sorts of things when I was growing up. I went out to do summer stock when I was 18, same place my father did. And my dad didn't want me to go into theater, of course, because you can't make a living. But I went out there and I dislocated my knee. I was out there as an actor. And so they said, what else can you do? And I said, well, I can sew. So I met this designer, he and I hit it off. And all because of a dislocated knee, I got rid of the acting, and he goes, you should come over and take some classes from me. You've got a really good eye, you know your periods, you've got a really good sense of style. And so the first semester I went back and forth between the college I was going to and the university, and by the second semester I transferred everything over there and ended up with a degree in costume design and construction.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Okay, so how old were you when the knee thing happened?
I was probably I was probably about 20.
Okay. Wow. Okay, that's amazing. It's also it says a lot that you were willing to get up on the stage when your dad I
Oh, I loved
we
it.
often need kids in our productions, and my kids are like, not getting me up
Oh,
there.
I thought that was great.
That's so good. It also gives you having because a couple, not all, but just maybe a couple of the costume designers that I've interviewed have that kind of background of being an actor. And I know Meryl Streep does as well, has the background, the background of being
Right.
a costume design. Now she acts. And it's interesting how those two things are so married to each other, and really understanding character and then how to dress that character. And so it's really neat that you have a little bit of that in your
Yeah.
background too.
Well, I talk to the actors a lot.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, you're one of the first, even before they get their call for the next day. Sometimes they're emailing the costume designer going, "Hey, do you know my call for tomorrow?" And they're like, "You'll get it with," you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Because they think we know everything,
right,
but
right,
we're usually about the last to know.
right. So true. So what was your first costume design job? Like a paid job?
Oh, I did summer stock in Mankato, Minnesota, and I designed the Fantastics.
Oh, I love that show.
That was the first paid gig that I
Yeah, yeah.
did.
That's tough doing summer stock.
Yeah,
It's so fast.
it is.
It might have gotten you kind of prepared for doing a TV series. That's also very fast.
Yes, it is. And, I've done a lot of TV series and before I designed a show. So I was always backstage doing something. I did a lot of theater, moved down here in 85. And got working at the Dallas Theater Center. And then I started doing the Dallas Children's Theater as a, extra money, and I just did all the theaters in town for a while. And then started doing TV work, and did Walker and Chase and Sons of Thunder, and let's see what else, Prison Break. So there was a lot of, I was a supervisor in most of these things. So it was very fast and crazy.
And a
Because
lot
you
of
had a lot of people to answer to.
yeah, and is every series that you just said, those are all shot in Texas, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome that you really got involved in all of the series that were being shot in Texas.
Yeah, I did Barney and Wishbone, and yeah.
Do you know what? I was on one of the Barney movies.
Oh, were you?
I was. I wonder if you did the costumes for it. It was great. Like we were outside, and it was some sort of like fair or circus.
Oh, the
We
circus,
were all
yeah.
wearing like really fantastical looking. I feel like there was a color palette, like red and orange. I mean, not red and orange, purple and orange or something.
Yes, it's all
Anyways,
purple and orange and yellow and green, and yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, that would be
That was
amazing.
my design assistant here. She was the designer of Barney. That's how.
Okay, and you were okay.
And well, actually, I took care of the kids,
Oh, you did.
children. Yes,
Oh, that's so great.
yes. Selena Gomez and Demi Lovato were two of my kids.
Oh my gosh. Selena Gomez, Only Murders in the Building.
Oh, love that show.
I love that show. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so you actually were kind of saying something that is kind of part of my lead up here in this next question. The Chosen is a TV series,
Mhm.
completely free to watch, by the way, that tells the story of the life of Christ and his closest followers. Now, my setup then is you have done a lot of stage work and television series in Dallas. One of the stage places you mentioned,
Yeah.
one of the theaters is Dallas Theater Center, a very recognized theatrical facility. How did you get attached to The Chosen, having done a lot of stage but you have done a lot of series too? How did they know to call up Leon?
Well, they had done the first 4 episodes of season 1, and apparently, for some odd reason, I have no idea, they didn't like their costume designer before, so they had asked Stephen Kujay, who's a friend of mine. Well, Stephen was since has passed, but he had pancreatic cancer, and so he told Chad and Carrie that I was the person to go to. And so at the time, they were housing out of MPS, which is a local studio, and I was doing a Chuck E. Cheese video, actually a series of Chuck E. Cheese videos for their store. And so I was in the building. And so they called me up and I said, "Oh, where are you located?" And they go, "MPS." And I go, "Well, I'm down the hall." And so I went in, and the next day I interviewed with Dallas. And I just talked to him about, my working process and stuff like that. And I'm very animated when I talk and things. And I walked out of there and I was like, "Oh, no way, no way. He's not going to like me, no, not at all." And so I went back doing my thing. And then the next day, Carrie called me and she goes, "Oh, somebody wants to say hi to you." And so I said, "Sure, come on down. We're on break right now." And so the accountant came down, and she was the accountant from Barney. So she knew me very well, and she gave me a big hug, and I was like, "Oh, it's so good to see you." And Carrie goes, "Oh, you got the job." And I was like, "What? Okay." And she handed me a pile of scripts and said, "Okay, we're going to have a production meeting, and you'll have a chance to get a talk with Dallas, and we go from there."
Oh,
And
that's
Dallas
great.
and I hit it off, and he trusts me, and so it's really interesting
Yeah,
because
that's
I don't
great.
The only person I have to answer to really um, in the upper echelon is Dallas. Dallas and Akis, who is the uh, photography. And I always talk to James, so I make sure that my clothes aren't clashing with his sets or that they blend into the background. But
Yeah.
it's mostly Dallas will give me a heads up or heads down, and most of the time they're heads up. So
Yeah. Oh, that's
really
awesome. I
nice.
love that story.
Yeah.
I had many an audition at MPS actually. I remember that place.
Yeah.
So at this point, were you in the series was in Capernaum? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So, what was that when you get the phone call and you get the job? Like, how quick of a turnaround then was it from then to like boots on the ground? You're building stuff, you're pulling stuff,
Oh, I had about a month
oh wow, that's pretty.
because maybe it was 6 weeks. Um, because I got all the costumes from Stephen, because they housed them there. And when I opened the boxes, all they were hangers and tags. There were no clothes in it because they were all rented from a Western. They had only made a few costumes. They made Jesus, they made Peter, Andrew, I think John. Oh yeah, the first five.
Okay.
And well, they rented Mary Mag's, but they built Peter, Jesus, Matthew, Sean and Big James, or I mean James and John. There you go, and Thaddeus and Little James.
Okay.
But the rest, like Nicodemus and all the Pharisees and all those kind of people, were out of LA.
So
They
out
were
of
put
I
on
was gonna
hold.
say, yeah.
They were
So it's
put
out
on,
of Western in LA is what you're talking about. Okay.
and so I got all that stuff there and just tried piecing things together. And I thought, well, I'll just build them new stuff. Well, Dallas didn't want anybody to change because it was a new series and he wanted people to recognize them through the course
Yeah.
of, time, which is great. But, and it was myself, my fabricator, 3 people on set. We were a total of 5 people.
Oh my goodness. And this is for the rest of season one, or for how long
Yes.
did it stay? Okay.
Well, we had extra when we had big days of background, we had more.
You had
um,
overhire and people come in. Okay.
Overhired people came in. Like, I mean, it was our last day of shooting, but it was my first episode because we were doing everything at once.
Yeah.
And it was the wedding where he turns water into wine. So,
Yeah.
and the only thing that James, when I came on board, he asked me to, if I could pump up the color because it was very brown at the time.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
so,
and you did. The color is really beautiful. So actually, there are a lot of earth tones, which makes sense.
right.
But you do also use a lot of color. So talk to us actually about your use of color and your color choices in particular for certain characters.
Well, we wanted to keep kind of that sunset, desert kind of feel to it because because I like to kind of make also pictures, put people in, pull my line and make them all look well together. So
Yeah.
nobody stands out. And like one of my first people to build was Tamar. And she was the Ethiopian lady. I had a local talent in Dallas build her necklace.
Oh,
And we did not know that. We thought she was going to be a one-time deal. But people loved her and they put her in the second season. And, it was just kind of a snowballing effect that, I was able to put color in her because she was from some other place.
yeah.
She was
Yeah.
Ethiopian and not from Jerusalem per se.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how she came up. And Matthew, I changed one of his costumes, his iconic white jacket, Pamela made, the first designer. And but his second outfit which was a green silk, I did a different Roman drape on him because he was becoming more Roman as,
Mhm.
you know, as he got money.
Yeah. Yeah. Matthew
So,
being the tax collector for
right, and gave him a little more color too in
Mhm.
that look.
Yeah.
But we
Um,
kind of keep now, I've through talking with the guys, I know which colors look good on them, which would complement their eyes and things of that nature. And so we have changed them up, but we've kept them in the same kind of feel or color palette, um, you know, so that they're not shockingly, different.
yeah. A fun moment is, and now was this in the script, this fun moment, I'm going to say, or was this something you kind of wanted to come up with? And either way, um, either way is fine, fine answer. But a fun moment for the costume and the choice of color is when the women are presenting Jesus with a color to wear at the feeding of the 5,000. And they each, his mother being one of them, Mary, the mother of
Yes,
Jesus, is one of them. And they all have a different reason why they want this color. And they end up going with the blue.
right.
Um, so was that something that I'm guessing it was in the script, and so you just followed orders?
Yeah, but I
Is
chose the fabric,
you
so
chose the fabrics in the blue color. And
yes.
so is that because there's kind of a quintessential picture of Jesus with the blue sash, or
Yeah,
how did that come about?
I don't know. It was Dallas. He wrote it in that they
Yeah.
chose the blue. Um, and for a while there, I was like, oh, okay. And I showed him all the different colors and stuff like that. And he goes, no, I think it was probably that's buried in the back of his mind, whether he, chose to or not.
Okay.
But yeah, I had just fabric choice was all I did.
That's great. Yeah.
It was kind of iconic too, because that's the most expensive. That would have been the most expensive fabric
Of those choices.
of those choices,
Wow, that's amazing.
because
That's neat.
blue was a hard color to come by.
Mm.
Purples you could make out of berries and things of that nature. It also was royal, but blue was extremely expensive because it's like little mollusks in the sea and it would take thousands of them just to make enough for a pound of fabric.
Wow.
So it was very expensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why we try to keep blue to a minimum. But now that they're getting into Jerusalem, we can bring up the colors a little bit more too. So
I love that history. In fact, um, speaking of the history of it and this being taken place in the early ADs, where did your research first take you? Like a
well, I had to do a
resource?
lot of research because I never grew up religious. I always believed in a higher power, but we never were,
Yeah.
I was baptized Methodist and confirmed a Lutheran, I mean, so we never were avid churchgoers. So I had to do a lot of research on that, and Jewish heritage and stuff like that. All
Yeah.
of there, because that is a long, it's very intricate religion. And learning all this for the Pharisees and the different sects, because there's many different sects within the Jewish religion, and what they wore. They have done a disservice to like Pharisees and I was just following the lead that I had from Pamela before, that they wore black. Well, not necessarily. It's kind of the white hat, black hat syndrome.
Okay. Yeah,
White is
the
the
good
good guys,
guy, good
black is the
bad guy.
bad. And so that's how that, and they've always been pictured that way.
Hmm.
But when you start researching, you can, even though there's no photographs or anything, you can tell that it's not just a black and white thing.
Yeah. Interesting.
So being that it was started, we just had to keep going. And last season, we had all of the Sanhedrin. So we had the Sadducees, which we made more because they're wealthier. We made them purples. And then we had the Herodians, which followed Heron, which was very, very rich and had a lot of jewels. And we went with blue tones with them. And then we had the strict Jews that we made very simple and just grays and blacks and things of that nature, soft caps with them. They wore the talits instead of having the prayer shawls like the rest of them. And, you know, so you can see the different, because I wanted you to be able to see the different sects of the religion right there.
Well, I mean, you're exactly right. That's one of the amount of different classes and job distinctions and nationalities that you have in this series is pretty incredible. And a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them are not even in operation today. And I put that in loose quotes because, like, Roman soldiers and, that kind of thing. So a lot of ancient research is what you're saying. Look at, because you have Roman citizens, Roman soldiers of various ranks, Jewish rabbis and Sanhedrin, Pharisees, Sadducees, Jewish communities, Gentile communities, Ethiopians, and then Jesus and the disciples. And I'm probably not even covering everybody. Was there any kind of, with all of this, was there any kind of like, were you intimidated at all to like make sure you got it right? Or were you just like, was there any kind of like, stay steady, stay focused on the research? Or was there like, what was that emotional process like?
Well, it's all, luckily, 2 years ago, I went to an amazing estate sale, and she was a lover of all religions. And she had coffee table books of everything, the biblical world. They had the world of Allah, the vanishing world. I mean, all these things, India, ancient Rome, Pompeii, I mean, Jerusalem. Wow. So I went crazy there. I went there 2 days. And she also traveled. So she also had silks and beautiful tapestries, trim that was this big that it was crazy. I dropped a lot of money at that place. And then,
research.
So it was great because at that time we were doing the Syrophoenicians and the Nabateans, which there are, you can just, like the Nabateans were more Bedouins. So they would take all their stuff, they would wear all their clothes, they would wear all their jewelry and things of that nature. And I feel like the jewelry is the icing on the cake of everything,
Yeah.
Because it just kind of sets you in a different place and time. So I do a lot of research and a lot of shopping. And I go everywhere from Etsy to thrift stores, and find just, different things that I can turn stuff into things. And I have, now we have a much bigger staff. So I can have people make jewelry for me. And I have, Susan O'Neill, who did the necklace for Tamar. So she can do stuff for me, and she's wonderful. And I have somebody who does my shoes in Utah. And it's been just a big snowball.
Yeah. Okay. So now you guys are in Midlothian.
Yes.
And you have an gorgeous studios there.
Yes.
So when did you make the move? When did the company make the move from Capernaum to Midlothian? And what was that move like?
Oh, we moved a lot that year. This was season 3. And we started, they were just putting up the one building, which is now the mill.
Okay.
Which is right across from the street from our building now. So they had rented a warehouse in Midlothian for a place, because otherwise I would be in a tent. And I was like, I can't really be in a tent.
Yeah.
So
and in Texas in a tent.
Yeah.
That's a,
Well,
that's like
the
putting in a
warehouse,
pressure cooker.
the warehouse was a little, started there, and of course it was, January, February, and there
Well,
was no, it
okay,
was,
so then you're freezing. So you have, for those that don't know about Texas, you've got extreme. So, okay.
yes. Well, and that was, yeah, it was, and that was the year of, as we called it, Snowmageddon, because
Remember
we
that.
had a big blizzard, and that was when we were doing the feeding of the 5,000, or not feeding the 5,000, the Sermon on the Mount. So we had all these people coming in, and I'm trying to, talk to them and say, okay, you need to make sure that you have warm clothes, layers, 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 because, we don't know what's going to happen. So, yeah. So we moved the shop 5 times that year, because we had the warehouse, then we went to Weatherford, to Capernaum, then we went back to the warehouse, then we came out here, and they put me in the building. At least it was kind of okay, because it did have heat, but the floors weren't sealed, so you drop anything and anything got dirty. Luckily, we were still in Capernaum, so we had to dirty all the clothes and distress
Yeah,
all the clothes
okay.
anyway. So it wasn't that horrific,
Well,
but
that's making some lemonade out of lemons right there to go,
oh,
we've got
yeah,
to distress the clothes anyways.
yeah, yeah.
Drag them
Well,
on
that's
the
when I
floor.
bought a cement mixer, so
This series is unique in so many ways on how it was done. One of those ways is being the budget and how they came up with the budget, and it's through investors and donations of
yes,
viewers and fans. This was posted by Wall Street Journal. About 16,000 people paid at least $100 each to finance the series' first season, which cost $11 million to produce. The Wall Street Journal reported this. As of
mhm,
November 2021, more than $40 million have been raised for the series, enough to produce 3 of the show's planned 7 seasons. So that's really fascinating on the fan base and the donations
yeah,
there.
it's
And
amazing.
so, of that, another fascinating way that you guys used your fans was to invite them to participate in the feeding of the 5,000 crowd. So, walk us through what you creatively did to get that many people in costume.
Well, we had done the Sermon on the Mount was kind of our test run,
Okay.
and between James, the BJ, myself, props, we got together and we made kind of a manifest of our color palette, what kind of fabrics, textures we wanted, where they could find them, if they wanted to go online and buy something, or patterns that they could go to Joann's and buy the pattern and build it.
Yeah.
Then where you could find rugs and purses, bags that they could carry, and the jewelry. We did 2 videos on YouTube for how to dress like a German, Jewish man and a Jewish woman. So that gave them a little bit of knowledge there. We just bumped it up for feeding the 5,000 because we also had the Nebuchadnezzars and the Seraphonicians there. So we also boosted our color palette. It was a bigger manifest,
Yeah.
and we sent it out to all the people who wanted to go and do it, and they followed really good. But this year they knocked it out of the ballpark. We
Really?
had we had 3 weeks of 600 people a day, and the feeding of the 5,000 did great, but this year they really knocked it out of the park, and you could not tell where my design stopped and they started.
Oh, wow. That's
We
amazing.
talked to them. I went in once a week and talked to all these people and just, told them, or if I stopped them and, noticed something and complimented them. They were so amazing. You could tell they were fans and they were really watching, because one lady had two outfits. She was a Jewish lady one day, and then she was a Nebuchadnezzar the next day. And, it's lovely that they just loved the show.
Yeah.
And they really took heart to what we were saying about, the colors and where you could find things. And, it was lovely.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, yeah, they came dressed. They all come dressed.
Yeah.
And we do take stuff out just in case if somebody's wearing screaming white or something like that, we'll switch it out so it's not so focus pulling. But by and large, we didn't have to change hardly anybody.
That's great.
And
And how
both
big
of
is
them.
your shop now? Like as far as workers?
I now have a full-time stitcher and a full-time cutter draper. And then we have, everybody does everything here. Because I have 3 full-time background and 3 full-time principal costumers, plus my assistant and her assistant to the principals. They do the trucks when we have to travel.
Oh,
And-
okay.
Yeah, because we started this season, we ended last season in Utah. This season we started in Utah and we're ending in Midlothian.
When you go to Utah, do you send all of your items on trucks and then you guys fly, or like?
Well, I drove because I brought machines with me,
Okay, you gotta
just
haul that
domestic
stuff,
machines.
yeah.
We did bring one industrial this year up there because we had to bring the whole shop because there's not a shop up there. So yeah, we kind of picked and choose what we needed at the time. And we got some really great donations from the LDS up there because we're using their set. And for the first 2 years, we used their costumes too, until I was able to generate enough background that we don't need them. And we got a lot of donations, like the Frozen Chosen, as they called the Sermon on the Mount. They donated a lot of their costumes, and so did the Feeding the 5,000 donated their costumes. But the people this year are hanging tight to those costumes because I have a feeling they're going to want to come back next season.
Oh, okay.
So
That's incredible. Well, it already sounds like there've been so many pivots and changes and moves as far as your shop goes. So
yes.
in particular to design related, has there been a major pivot you've had to do like on the fly that you hadn't expected?
Not really. I did finally get a chance to start shopping in LA because that was, trying to find stuff locally or just online. Once I came on, I wanted to have multiples of everything. So all of our principals, at least especially our top 15, 18 people have 4 of each item.
Oh, wow.
Because we don't know what's going to happen. Like, they were walking on water. They spent a week being wet in a tank,
Yeah.
So we had to have multiples of everything. So, and who knows, Big James got whacked on the head. He got blood all over him, and that has to stay that way for a while until we can get him out of that into his new, clothes. So we have to make sure that they have the yardage and, bless them, Joanne's just doesn't have that kind of yardage. And
Yeah.
so I found a place actually my assistant found a place in LA called Rag Finders, and they do 20 yard. That's the minimum that you can buy is 20 yards.
Oh, wow. What's it called?
Rag Finders.
Rag Finders. Huh. I haven't heard of
And-
that. That's great.
Oh, they're awesome. So I go out there and I, swatch. That's some of the swatches over there are all from what floor they were on, because it's 4 floors of fabric.
Oh,
It's
wow.
literally, you kind of have to, leave breadcrumbs to find your way, but they know where everything is, which is amazing. So you take big swatches. So I get a piece, they get a piece, and then they give me 20 yards of everything that I pick, and they ship it.
Wow. Have you, is it in the Fabric District,
Yeah,
LA?
yeah.
That place is a madhouse. I
Yeah,
start to kind of sweat when I have to,
go there. Yes, I know. I know.
the
Me too.
parking and the people waving the flags and park at my place. And,
I know, I know. Luckily, I've got somebody who helps me. I've got a
good.
driver. Yeah, I've got a
That's what I would
stylist
do
that
next.
takes me around to the places that I want to go. And this is, we've done it for 2 years. So she knows what I want and what I'm looking for and things of
Yeah.
that nature. So it's
Uh,
really great.
that is so important to have a right-hand person like that that can
Yeah,
basically make a decision for you because they know what you want so intimately, you know?
yeah, yeah. The same way with, when we were doing our first big, uh, 600 people, we used a lot of the LDS costumes, and we had just been out to Utah. So I had a girl that I had hired out in Utah that was with the show for like 4 weeks or something. And so she went to the LDS because she knows them really well and she works there. And she pulled all the clothes and packed them up and shipped them. So, and we know she knew exactly what kind of looks I wanted and things of that nature. So it was no
Yeah.
worries. And I have a leather person who does all of my Roman leathers.
Oh, wow.
She is part of my background staff. So she can repair all the leathers and things of that nature. I mean, we do a lot of in-house. I've got a painter dyer that's also on set. You know, we all wear many hats in
Yeah.
this
That's
shop.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's great.
yeah,
Um,
it's fun.
I have a few deep dive questions for you.
Okay.
And my first one is, what is a valuable lesson you have learned in life? And it can be costume related or not.
Oh, just follow your heart. I mean, because I was like, oh, I really wanted this job, but I truly thought, there's no just way.
Mm,
There's no way I was going to get it. I'm just not that kind of person, but I wanted it so bad, and
yeah. You
it
walked through the
happened.
open doors that were there,
And
presented the
you never know where you're going to find inspiration,
Mm,
or because you can't just walk past something. I go into every shop possible, and you never know what you're going to find. You can't just go, no, I'm just going to do it from this point of view, or I'm going to just use these shops. No, you don't know. I go into every antique store. I mean, in Weatherford, who would have known that this little tiny antique store, military store, would have had all these beautiful, I bought most of the bride from season 1, all of her jewelry from this guy
Oh, wow.
that
At a
he was
military store?
in a military
Oh,
store, and
wow.
he had all these antique instruments
Oh,
that was, from the Middle East. So, I took pictures of them and sent them to the props master and said, you might want to check this guy out. And, who knows? And I never would have thought about going in there, but I just, I have to check it out. You never know.
yeah. Yeah. And the fact that you found all those amazing resource books at an estate sale, that's really cool.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
is
You
so
never
like
know
a
where you're going to find
providential.
anything. And by going through stuff, you just get, like, some of these books, the colors are so amazing, or the styles of things
Mm.
that I'll earmark and go talk to my cutter draper and go, oh, this is kind of the feel I want for this person, or this is what I want to see in some of our background people, because we're nonstop building. Right
Yeah.
now, they're out there building more stock, and we're also building, miniature versions of some of the guys, because there's a
Oh,
scene where they're young kids.
oh
So
my gosh.
yeah, so we're constantly, we will continue to build up until probably the last day of filming.
Um, Oh, actually, I want to ask you, this isn't a deep dive, but you were mentioning
Okay.
these minis. I don't want to give anything away for people who haven't, but Mary Magdalene has a shift in color for one of the most recent episodes because we move forward
Yes,
in time. And she wears a red, I believe,
it was a burgundy,
a burgundy. And so
right?
she moved from these like lavenders and really pale blue to this burgundy. What was the design decision in shifting that to her?
Well, one of the things is she didn't like the color of the old thing. And I had put her in a flash forward in that burgundy. And I had bought enough fabric when I could build new things for the disciples and things. I just decided that, okay, well, we'll build this, but she can still keep wearing it because it was in a big jump in time.
Yeah,
So, and she loved that dress that I built for
she
her because
did.
it was great color on her. And now, it's that first one we washed and washed and washed, so it looked older than it did when she's got her stuff now.
Yeah.
So now that's caught up to, her other four have caught up to, her other three have caught up to the first one that I had done. So,
Yeah.
and it's just such a good color for her on camera and things of that nature. And it gives us a little, because it kind of washed that light blue, just kind of washed her out. It gives her a little more ruddier color.
Mhm.
And it, it kind of warms everybody
Yeah.
because the boys are still in their browns and their greens and like the colors that I picked, like both Nathaniel and Judas came from business classes. So that's why Judas is always in kind of a blue gray or something because he could
Mhm.
afford that.
Mhm.
And same way with Nathaniel, his trims are always a little better and his color is a little brighter because he's an architect. He was out there with the Romans and things of that nature. And so that's why his costume is that way. And it's when I look at the palette, I kind of see these colors together to make, you want to make a pretty picture when they're doing their walk and talks through the grass and things of
Yeah.
that nature. You want everybody to kind of pop in their own ways.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's how I do.
Yeah, that's great. I like it. And it was a touching
She loved
scene.
it.
The leap in time was a really touching scene. Um,
Yes.
what advice have you been given that has really stuck to you or that you try to live by?
Just to be nice, treat everybody like they want to be treated.
Mm.
And I really listened to my actors and I talked to them. We started this season off. I had a meeting with every one of them because we were getting new costumes for them. And I had a new fabricator. So I wanted to make sure that we got all these things, right and fitted. And he made new patterns for them and they're beautiful. And you want to listen to everybody. You have to listen to everybody. My dad was a big thing of treating people like they want to be treated.
Yeah.
And he I think he'd be proud that I do. I try to listen to what they do and don't want
Yeah.
because it's their world. They have to make these characters live. And, if I can give them a little boost here or there, like that's great.
Yeah.
I really look good in this color. Okay, well, I'll see if I can find something like that. It still lend it into the palette. Okay, or I want a different look because I'm the most Roman I'm going to be, and so I'll try to do something like that,
Yeah.
because when Atticus strips Quintus of his title,
Yeah.
wore a brand new outfit, and that was something that we talked about, and we
Yeah.
discussed and Pilate, and now with Caiaphas, this year he wanted not just to seem in that one look, he wanted different looks because we see a lot in his home.
Mm.
And he has his regal robes, and then he has his everyday Sanhedrin stuff. He has his Passover look and his Sanhedrin, and then he has his casual stuff at home. So I made sure that he had a hat for every little outfit that because we made him we made him a robe, and then he wears parts and pieces of his other um, other costumes, his other tunics, so that he gets a different change up. He's not always that straight, Pharisee, but he's always got his head cover as part of the whole thing. They're not yarmulkes because that wasn't there yet, and he and I sat down and talked, and I go through and we track their lines on when he can change what.
Yeah.
We have a lot. I did
Oh,
that
and the
with
continuity of all of that. My goodness. It's a lot
Yeah,
of
'cause, they don't change much, but when they do make changes, we want to make sure that, it's consistent.
right. I want to reiterate what you said because I think it's important just to be kind to other people. And I think some people may hear that at first and think, well, of course, I'm like, but I think in this world, I'm going to borrow the metaphor. I did
Okay.
not come up with this metaphor, um, but I've heard the metaphor of like when actually I have my coffee cup right here, and there's coffee in it, and if I spill it, the coffee comes out, and
Right.
so if like what's ever in you is going to come out when there's pressure, when you're jostled, so if I have good things in me, if I have kind things in me, those things are going to come out under pressure and under like being jostled. But if I put a lot of mean
Negative.
things and think negative things in me, negative beliefs in myself, if I'm speaking lies over myself or whatever, then those are the things that are going to come out under
Exactly.
pressure.
And we work so long hours and so close together that you can't have that kind of stuff spilling out,
Yeah.
because it's really too much to handle.
Yeah.
Because then there's infighting, and I want a happy shop.
Yeah.
I'm
It
hearing them out there. They're cutting up out there. Who knows what they're
good. I'm
saying.
glad they are.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
My last are rapid fire questions, and they are
Uh-oh.
questions that you could be able to answer pretty quickly.
Okay.
What is a film you can watch over and over again?
Oh gosh. Um, a couple of them actually. The Imposters, because I love the Stanley Tucci and Oliver Platt, and it's hilarious. Star-studded, hilarious. 1920s, which is, I love period stuff.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that I could watch over and over
Watch it
again
over.
because it makes me laugh.
That's great.
It's about actors
Yeah.
and
there you go.
how they go through their whole, it's hilarious. If you ever get a chance to see
Okay.
it.
I
it's
can't believe I haven't
so-
seen okay, I haven't seen that one, but I will. I'm gonna-
Well, I mean, it's Steve Buscemi, and I mean, it's stars, Angela, or I mean, Allison Jennings. They're hilarious, and they're all just on a steamship. So it's
that
very
sounds
fun.
that sounds very
It's
fun.
brilliant.
I like that kind of it sounds like it sounds like right up my alley. That's what I'm
Ensemble.
thinking.
It's a
Yes,
total
ensemble.
ensemble.
There's the word.
And
Yes.
that's what we try to create here too.
Mm-hmm.
Ensemble work, tight.
Yes. Where's a place that you have traveled that you suggest others visiting?
Oh, I've traveled the United States.
That's fair.
And
A lot of people haven't even done that. So you
yes,
tell us.
I've done a lot of traveling just within the United States. The only place that I haven't really hit is the upper Northeast.
That's one of my places I want to hit. I want to go
Yeah.
to Maine and
Yeah.
I would love to Go to a little Maine village, fishing village.
one of these days, I want to do a river boat trip. And I'm hoping that I get to do it before, too long, from Paris to Budapest
Oh,
and
sounds
shop. Because once I get to Budapest, I get crazy, crazy, crazy.
a lot of designers on this show have said that that area is one of their favorite areas. Is like
Oh,
as kind of like, smells like spices and
yes, yes, and just colors and fabrics. Because I've used some of them online on Etsy,
yeah.
and they're awesome.
Well, when The Chosen is done with its seventh season, you should go there as a reward to yourself.
Yes,
Plan it
I-
now. Put a
yes,
picture up
I
on
know.
that little bulletin board
Um,
behind you.
Yep,
I
yep,
love
I will.
it. Well, where in the United States would you suggest? Because honestly, people
Oh,
haven't even traveled the whole United States,
well, I love the Northeast
Okay,
or the Northwest, uh,
Northwest.
Seattle, Oregon. I did a road trip from Cedar City, Utah, up through Wyoming and Jackson Hole and Yellowstone and up through Wyoming, Montana, and then across South Dakota to Wisconsin. And it was just, we just stopped whenever we wanted to stop. We got to see Old Faithful. We, had dinner with two, men because the restaurant was packed, and it was me and this other young girl. And this was a long time ago, and these two boys, and they had a four-top. So we got to meet two people that they were on a road trip going the other way. So it was, I love doing road trips and just stopping at weird, little
Yeah.
places along the way. Antique stores, going antiquing, I'll go everywhere.
Not being in a hurry to get to the next place.
No, just taking your
Enjoying the
time.
journey.
Yeah, because
That's-
you never know what you're going to find where. It's
Yeah.
always so amazing.
Wow, that is great advice. Enjoy the
Yeah, you
journey.
just enjoy the ride.
Yeah, there you go. You only get one ride.
Well, yeah, yeah. And I'm going to make the most of it.
Right, there you go. Thank you so much for being on the show today. Really appreciate it. And
Thank
I would
you
love
for-
to have you come on again for once we get some other seasons down and talk more.
I'm excited about this one. It's going to be a biggie.
Mm,
Get your Kleenex boxes ready.
I'm telling you,
I
I'm
know.
ready. I already have wept many a tears.
Oh, yeah. And I know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
But it's, I even reading the scripts, because now I know these characters, and it just breaks my heart sometimes
Yeah.
when you're reading it and going, okay, well, now I have to go do this to,
To that, yeah.
make it happen and make sure that they have enough of what they need,
Yeah.
like belts and, because they give each other gifts of, strange things. And so sometimes I have to make belts and
Yeah.
we make everything here. So
That's incredible. I want to
Yeah.
tell you something really sweet. My
Okay.
10-year-old son, who was 9 at the time when he told me this, we had been watching The Chosen, and the next morning, he said, "Mama, I had the best dream." And I said, "Really? What did you dream?" And he goes, "I dreamed I was with Jesus." And I said, "Really? What were you doing?" And he said, "We were roller skating." And I said, "Bud, I bet that's exactly what Jesus would want to do with you."
Yeah, it's true. And we have so many people that, you're going to make me cry. But we have people write us letters. And I mean, we have a bulletin board of just people writing us letters from all over, thanking us or telling us about their journey. And the fact that, I mean, it's stunning watching all of these YouTube snippets from when they were down in Brazil opening, season 4, or when they were in France, or when they were in, England, or, all over, because these guys go all over.
It's crazy.
To promote it. And I mean, they're working hard to make more languages available.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. I have a thing with a Swedish guy, a Swedish designer on Monday, who's coming in. So it's it's wild how many, and it fills you up so much.
Yeah.
Knowing that your work is out there.
Yeah.
And I never expected it, from being this little tiny thing to this explosion, that I have a building, a shop. I have a second floor for our background, because our background is so, it's not going to get any smaller.
Yeah, right.
It's not. And we're been working really hard at, making sure that we've got enough for everybody who wants to do this. So it really is fulfilling, and it fills you up with so much joy and love.
That's so great. Thank you for your willingness and desire to be the costume designer for the series and be on this
my honor
podcast episode.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, this is it's great. I've never done a podcast.
Great.
So I'm getting out there, I guess.
Okay, well, you're gonna kill it. You're gonna do amazing at all these interviews you've got coming down the pike. Thank you again.
Well, thank you very much.
Bless
Take care.
You. All right, bye-bye.
Me too. All right, bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to The Voice of Costume. Check out voiceofcostume.com to learn more, see upcoming guests, and be a part of our growing community.